In the chaos of World War II, a shocking tragedy unfolded when Allied forces turned their guns on each other in a deadly mistake that nearly fractured the Grand Alliance. It is the morning of the 7th of November, 1944, and 12 P-38 Lightnings streak across the skies over Yugoslavia. At the helm of this formation is Colonel Clarence Theodore Edwinson. He catches sight of a plume of steam billowing up from below. It is a German steam locomotive, not their primary objective, but an opportunity too tempting to ignore. Let us take it down, boys. Edwinson banks sharply and plunges into the dive, his squadron tight on his tail. They accelerate swiftly and zero in on the engine, squeezing the triggers. The locomotive absorbs a hail of American rounds, with steam erupting from punctures scattered across the boiler as the lightnings climb back toward the heavens. But the Germans respond swiftly with defenses. Dark bursts of anti-aircraft fire erupt around the group, shards tearing into the plane's thin metal hulls. Edwinson calls out over the radio, "Everyone, drop low." They wheel around to descend once more toward the earth to evade the enemy cannons, but the moment has passed. One P-38 takes a direct hit and erupts in fire as the whole unit dives for cover. The pilot's urgent cry echoes on the airwaves, "I am hit! I am going down!" Edwinson pulls level just above the treetops and cranes his neck back, searching for his comrade. Instead, he witnesses a blazing inferno as the damaged aircraft smashes into a slope. Has anyone spotted a parachute? Each aviator prays for an affirmative from another, but the quiet is overwhelming. No, sir. Rage surges through Edwinson's soul. Understood. The American aircraft thunder across the Serbian peaks. Abruptly, the terrain falls away beneath them, unveiling a vast valley dotted with an airstrip. It matches precisely the description from their pre-mission intelligence. Moments afterward, Edwinson spies just what he anticipated, a lengthy column of vehicles and armor heading northward toward Belgrade. Doubt never crosses his thoughts. This is their moment to strike back. There they are, those villains. Blue flight, target that German column. Red and yellow, hit the airstrip. Affirmative, sir. The Soviets remain oblivious to the fact that they have been wrongly identified by the Americans. The Red Army troops and Yugoslav resistance fighters are marking the anniversary of the October Revolution. They proceed along the route, warriors chanting songs with Soviet banners fluttering boldly in the breeze, until the drone of motors disrupts the harmony. The troops glance upward and notice the P-38s approaching from afar. Recognizing their comrades in arms sparks grins on their faces. Festivities continue and the procession advances. Only a handful grow concerned as they observe the plane splinter from their pattern and veer directly at them. No, no, they are preparing to attack us. The lightnings charge toward the line, the engines growl intensifying. The scant few Soviet warriors who grasp the error hurry to alert the oncoming Americans. They snatch banners from their fellows and hoist them aloft, flapping them frantically, wishing the Americans would notice. But time runs short. The flyers fail to see, and they unleash their fire. The Soviets fall as projectiles rip through the ranks of personnel and machines. The line descends into wild disorder amid a barrage of metal. Then the American explosives cascade downward. Blasts rip apart the remnants of the column, causing severe losses. At the adjacent airstrip, the far-off detonations reach their ears. Sentries snap to alertness and spot a horde of planes bearing straight for them. To the weapons! The warning blares, and Soviet warriors dash to the anti-aircraft positions. They spring into action with a thunderous bellow, streams of tracers arcing skyward to confront the assailants. Up above, Edwinson guides his team downward at what they assume is a Luftwaffe base teeming with Bf-109s. Flak rakes their ranks, damaging the aircraft, yet they press on unyielding. 20mm rounds and .50 caliber slugs stream from the Lightning's formidable weapons. They hammer the ground, slashing over the aligned parked planes as they detect adversary shots impacting their own craft with sharp snaps. Climb out. The Lightnings ascend from the plunge, but one lags behind. It belongs to Second Lieutenant Eldon Coulson. He hauls on the control stick with full force, but he has sustained critical harm from the Soviet defenses. He skims far lower than planned, drawing the wrath of the entire Soviet airstrip's anti-aircraft array. She will not respond. Additional strikes batter the Lightning, shredding wings and control surfaces, and command eludes his hold. The P-38 impacts a kilometer from the airstrip, detonating with Coulson aboard. Edwinson beholds the spheres of fire, and his fury mounts anew. They will force the Germans to atone. Gain height and strike once more. Below, anti-aircraft barrages persist upward at what they perceive as German twin-boom FW-189s. Red Army aviators sprint to the surviving Yaks amid flames and haze. Battle stations, all aviators launch now. The initial pair of Yak-9s to ignite their engines are flown by Lieutenant Krivanogic and his partner, Junior Lieutenant Shipulya. While taxiing, Krivanogic gazes upward and observes the adversaries wheeling for another assault. Shipulya, hurry! They align on the strip and slam the power to maximum. The Yak-9s surge along the runway and soar into the sky, facing the horrifying vision of the advancing foes overhead. The duo of Soviets hug the canopy tops, speeding clear of the P-38's view. But trailing them, the remaining Soviet aviators fare worse. They ascend in a clustered bunch, prime marks for a unit that has already suffered 2 casualties. Target those aircraft before they climb high. His team obeys without hesitation. They plummet at top velocity, dotted by ground-based anti-air streams. Sights locked, they activate the guns. Projectiles and shells lacerate the Soviet machines. One Yak is obliterated instantly, and multiple others are impaired. They scatter into avoidance tactics as lightnings streak above. All but one. One aviator notices his pursuer exiting the descent and seizes a chance. In an instant, he yanks his Yak skyward and fires. The P-38 sails directly into his salvo and is torn apart. The P-38 ignites and whirls wildly beyond control. Inside is Second Lieutenant Philip Brewer with no moment to escape. He is ensnared, and his craft hurtles earthward, impacting northeast of the Soviet airstrip. The P-38s ascend, slipping from the anti-air crew's reach. Edwinson surveys below where one foe and 2 allies smolder. This clash is proving far fiercer than foreseen. Numerous fighters approaching form a protective ring. We are battling our escape. Meanwhile, Krivanogic and Shipulya dash low above the foliage, pushing beyond 400 kilometers per hour. The assault on their comrades has stranded them, but they observe the adversary planes unleashing on the vulnerable line, and they recognize they must act. The pair of Yak-9s haul into a sharp upward ascent. For the initial occasion in recorded events, warplanes of the United States and Soviet Union clash in full aerial duel. Shipulya, engage. I will guard you. Understood. Shipulya charges after, slicing in at rapid pace, and unleashes with his lone 20mm cannon and .50 caliber gun. His volleys strike one of the P-38's dual bodies, yet it endures. Shipulya flashes past at tremendous speed and banks to ready another pass. But the American aviator summons aid, and 2 orbiting P-38s rush to assist. Krivanogic attacks the foes descending on his partner and yells on the radio, "Shipulya, evade, turn right." It is precisely in time. Shipulya wrenches firmly at the final instant, dodging the P-38's deadly spray. He weaves and eludes the opponent's craft's weapons, but he is defensive. I cannot shake him. Hold firm, I am approaching. Krivanogic hurtles into the fray as swiftly as possible, his pulse racing with each tracer burst aimed at his partner. He is closing rapidly. His aiming point aligns with one of the pair of lightnings, and he activates. His shots flash through the atmosphere and barely skim the foe's plane. The American aviator promptly halts the pursuit, but Krivonogic disregards him. He shifts to the subsequent P-38 pursuing Shipuyoya, aims true, and fires. His projectiles land flawlessly and strike the Lightning's dual tails, engulfing the craft in blaze. It continues uncontrollably. The American aviator ejects the top and parachutes as his flaming aircraft crashes 8 kilometers north of the Soviet airstrip. "Thank you, leader." "No problem. Ready yourself for combat." Both steal for a barrage. They are vastly outnumbered, but then the remainder of the Soviet unit erupts into view, firing and dispersing their adversaries. Krivonogic feels relief. Triumph now seems attainable. The duo of aviators plunge back into the skirmish. But amid the turmoil, they separate. Krivonogic fixes on a foe and pursues him through the confusion, corkscrewing higher into the skies. The P-38 mirrors the move, but the P-38 lacks optimization for low-level maneuvers, and Krivonogic rapidly closes. He has the American targeted. On the surface, a Soviet anti-air team unleashes at every hostile they spot. Whether due to poor precision or zealous operators, we may never learn, but they launch a salvo straight at Krivonogic's Yak. He receives no alert. His Yak absorbs a direct strike and shatters. Shipuyoya attempts to contact his companion on the airwaves and witnesses the fiery debris tumbling downward. His comrade is lost. He pushes the grief aside and identifies an American mark below him. He is outmatched and now solitary, but he nonetheless descends into the fray. P-38s encircle him. One executes a steep rise, halts in air, and then unleashes. Shipuyoya stands no opportunity. He proceeds directly into its barrage, and he is felled. The incinerated remains of his plane impact 500 meters north of the airstrip he protected. Soviet setbacks accumulate. Another Yak falls to the Americans. Soviet units frantically reach out to all adjacent installations seeking support. Hastening to the location is a new contingent of Yak-3s commanded by Captain Alexander Kulunov. They answer the airstrip leader's urgent call for aid, but Kulunov remains uncertain of the situation. He has heard he faces German FW-189s, yet he understands the 189 serves reconnaissance, not such assaults. Something is deeply amiss. Nearing the conflict, he realizes what confronts him is no FW-189. That silhouette is unmistakably an American P-38. He swiftly abandons his offensive and thunders parallel to the Americans, rocking his wings, trusting the fellow aviators spot the crimson emblems. "We are comrades." But rather, the Lightning deaccelerates, positions astern, and pivots to shoot. Curse it! Kulunov veers into avoidance patterns and slips the raging fusillade. Come now, what is this? He again streaks through the storm, striving to draw the American aviator's notice, but it fails, until he aligns directly beside Edwinson. Edwinson perceives the Soviet craft, and his gaze widens. A chill of horror courses through him. He scans the other planes darting nearby. Every presumed adversary bears the red Soviet insignia. "Oh no! Halt fire! Halt fire! They are Soviets! All return to base, immediately! Repeat, all return to base, immediately!" Every P-38 veers westward and retreats from the area, but Yaks give chase. "All aviators, allow them departure. They are comrades." Gradually, each Soviet aviator returns to their facility, and the dreadful mishap concludes suddenly. Some in Soviet leadership viewed the event as intentional, and briefly the repercussions risked escalating wildly. But the United States acknowledged the error in a clarifying message to the Soviets, detailing the sequence that led the Americans to believe they engaged Germans. The Soviet narrative, though probably enhanced, emerged over time. American details on the matter are sparse, and many suspect the complete record stays concealed and classified for 100 years post-event. Explore this story to learn how the initial stealth aircraft, the Nighthawk, gets down nearby 55 years hence.